Hello and welcome to my video on the trade deficit. In this video, I'll be taking a closer look at the global and U.S. trade deficits, the causes behind them, and their impacts on the economy. The first part is understanding the trade deficit. The trade deficit is an economic indicator that measures the difference between a country's exports and imports. In recent years, the U.S. trade deficit has been growing, which has led to concerns about its impact on the economy. According to the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. trade deficit hit a record high of $915.8 billion in 2020. One factor that contributes to the trade deficit is the strength of the U.S. dollar. A strong dollar makes U.S. exports more expensive, which can reduce demand for them in foreign markets. At the same time, a strong dollar makes imports cheaper, which can increase demand for them in the U.S. This can create a trade imbalance and contribute to a growing trade deficit. Another factor is the competitiveness of U.S. industries. If U.S. industries are not able to compete effectively with foreign producers, then consumers and businesses may choose to purchase imported goods instead. This can lead to a trade deficit as the U.S. is importing more goods than it's exporting. And then to go over a few causes of the trade deficit. One is the strength of the global economy. If other countries are experiencing economic growth and are able to produce goods and services more efficiently than the U.S., then demand for U.S. exports may decline, while demand for imports may increase. The pandemic also had a major impact on the trade deficit. According to the New York Times, disruptions to global supply chain and a decrease in demand for U.S. exports have contributed to a growing trade deficit. In addition, travel restrictions have reduced the number of tourists visiting the U.S., which has decreased demand for U.S. services. Our third part is economic analysis. So let's take a closer look at the impact of the trade deficit on the economy. According to The Economist, a trade deficit can be a sign of a healthy economy, as it shows that consumers and businesses have access to a wide variety of goods and services from around the world. However, a large and persistent trade deficit can also lead to concerns about the country's debt and its impact on jobs. A trade deficit can lead to an increase in the country's debt. As the U.S. borrows money from other countries to finance the deficit, this can lead to concerns about the sustainability of the debt and its impact on future generations. In addition, a trade deficit can have an impact on jobs. If U.S. industries are not competitive with foreign producers, then there may be job losses in those industries. At the same time, if demand for imports is high, then there may be job gains in industries that import goods. The net impact on jobs is uncertain and depends on a variety of factors. Part 4 would be addressing the trade deficit. There are several strategies that can be used to address the trade deficit, including increasing exports, reducing imports, and implementing policies to support U.S. industries. CNBC reports that the Biden administration has proposed a number of measures to address the trade deficit, including investing in domestic manufacturing and infrastructure, increasing exports to other countries, and working with allies to address unfair trade practices. Increasing exports can be a challenging strategy as it requires U.S. industries to be competitive with foreign producers. This may require investments in research and development, as well as improvements in productivity and efficiency. Finally, there are structural factors that contribute to the trade deficit. According to The Economist, the U.S. has a comparative advantage in service rather than goods. This means that the U.S. is better at producing services like finance and technology, while other countries are better at producing goods. As a result, the U.S. imports more goods than it exports, which contributes to this trade deficit. Part 5 deals with impact on the economy. The trade deficit can have a significant impact on the economy, affecting everything from GDP growth to job creation. According to The Economist, a large and persistent trade deficit can lead to concerns about the country's debt and impacts on jobs. As we mentioned earlier, a trade deficit can lead to an increase in the country's debt, as the U.S. borrows money from other countries to finance the deficit. So, it could lead to concerns about the sustainability of the debt and its impact on future generations. In addition, a trade deficit can have impact on jobs. If U.S. industries are not competitive with foreign producers, then there may be job losses in those industries. This can have a ripple effect on the economy, as workers who lose their jobs may spend less money, leading to a decrease in demand for other goods and services. At the same time, if demands for imports are high, then there may be jobs gained in those industries that import goods. The net impact on jobs is uncertain and depends on a variety of factors. The trade deficit can also affect GDP growth. According to Wall Street Journal, the trade deficit subtracts from GDP growth as the money spent on imports is not being spent on domestic goods and services. This can lead to a decrease in economic output, which can have further downstream effects on the economy. Part 6 covers some policies to address the trade deficit. There are several policies that can be used to address the trade deficit. One approach is to reduce imports by implementing tariffs or other trade barriers. This can make imported goods more expensive, which can reduce demand for them and shift demand to domestic producers. However, this approach can also lead to retaliatory measures by other countries, which can reduce demand for exports and further increase the trade deficit. Another approach is to increase exports by supporting U.S. industries and making U.S. goods more competitive in foreign markets. This can be done through investments in research and development, as well as improvements in productivity and efficiency. In addition, the government can negotiate trade agreements with other countries to reduce barriers to U.S. exports. Finally, the U.S. could increase exports to other countries by negotiating trade agreements and providing support to U.S. exporters. The administration is working with allies to address unfair trade practices, such as intellectual property theft and subsidies for foreign industries. Part 7 talks about the impact of the trade deficit on global economic relations. While the U.S. trade deficit has been a concern for American policymakers, it also has significant implications for global economic relationships. For example, the large trade deficit means that the U.S. is borrowing from other countries to finance its consumption. This creates a situation where the U.S. is in debt to countries like China, which hold a large amount of U.S. government debt. This dependency on foreign capital means that the U.S. is vulnerable to changes in global economic conditions. Furthermore, the U.S. trade deficit also affects the value of the U.S. dollar as more dollars flow out of the U.S. to pay for imports. The value of the dollar decreases relative to other currencies. This can have a ripple effect on global markets as other countries adjust their own currency values to maintain a trade relationship with the U.S. In some cases, this can lead to currency wars or other forms of economic conflict between nations. Overall, the trade deficit has far-reaching implications for the U.S. economy and global economic relationships. It's a complex issue that requires careful analysis and policy decisions to address effectively. In conclusion, the trade deficit is a complex issue that has huge implications on the economy. While a trade deficit can be a sign of a healthy economy, a large and persistent trade deficit can lead to concerns about the country's debt and its impact on jobs. There are several policies that can be used to address the trade deficit, like reducing imports, increasing exports, and implementing policies to support U.S. industries. As we work to address the trade deficit, it'll be important to balance these competing interests and ensure that the U.S. remains competitive in the global marketplace. God bless America.